Bethesda is once again a talking point in the gaming world, and you may be surprised to hear it is once again not in the best of ways. Recently, this tweet came out saying, "Bad news for The Elder Scrolls 6, Dragon Age Veilguard writer joins Bethesda." The writer at the heart of this controversy is Jon Dombrow, a seasoned narrative designer with a resume that is interesting to say the least. He's worked on Mass Effect 3, BioShock Infinite, and also Dragon Age the Veilguard, and that is where the real red flags do come in. I feel like if the Dragon Age Veilguard game never existed and this guy was brought in, wow, people would be really happy about it and wouldn't blink an eye. They'd just see it as another good acquisition to try and push Bethesda forward. But when you are part of a team that makes something that doesn't go down well with the gaming community, they are going to remember and they are going to align you with that. And that is exactly what has happened here. With the obvious errors of Dragon Age the Veilguard, lots of critics and actual just gamers in general calling it insufferable, woke, etc. It seems that people do fear for The Elder Scrolls 6's future when they are bringing in writers from that game. Before we do get started though guys, if you do enjoy these kind of videos regarding The Elder Scrolls, Bethesda and so much more, please be sure to consider subscribing. I post weekly content which I'm sure you'll absolutely love. To really understand what is fueling this panic, to understand why this could be bad news, we do need to peel back the layers of what was Dragon Age Veilguard. Now, this was released back in October 2024 by BioWare, the latest installment of the Dragon Age series, and it was pitched as a certainly bold reinvention, introducing a new protagonist, a fresh assemble of companions, and a vibrant and chaotic land. The game pulled in 1.5 million players by the end of 2024, and actually picked up a lot of media attention, whether it was for the good reasons or certainly the bad. I'm not going to beat around the bush here, but I also don't want to water a dead plant because this is already in the past, but this game was insufferable to say the least. So much politicking, so much not nonsense to say the least. I don't want to get into it, but let's just say this game was very, I don't like to say it, but it was woke. And I really try to use this as least as I possibly can on this channel. I don't want to talk about it so much like other people do, but sometimes it just needs to be said. This game was woke.
That's why we recruited her.
Actually, Tosh uses them for themselves now.
They asked us to let folks know, so now you do.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you for telling me. That's why we recruited them.
If you are neither a man nor a woman, then what are you?
Non-binary. I just said, and I'm going to use they instead of she from now on.
Woke is thrown around very often and very easily these days. I feel like a lot of different things are thrown into this category when they not necessarily are. But guys, this was the wokest of woke. This is the definition of what woke actually is. You want to see it, go and play this game. Despite that, this game was hit with a review bombing so hard on Metacritic that almost immediately after the launch, users would flood the site with 1-star reviews, slamming it for what they described as poor writing with an overemphasis on elements such as labeled as woke. This wasn't generally just a handful of trolls. This discontent was widespread enough that the Metacritic moderators actually had to step in and remove abusive comments, a rare move that is unfortunately not something we want to see in the gaming community. Despite all of the woke palaver, there was actually a lot of narrative flaws that many people did call out. Harvey Randall from PC Gamer was one of the first to actually address these flaws, especially when addressing gender identity, which he believed came off as jarring and out of place in a fantasy setting. And what else is a fantasy setting that this man is going to be working on? Well, yes, The Elder Scrolls 6. That's where my sort of concern comes in here. But anyway, to get back to the criticism of the Dragon Age Veilguard game, it was also said that many of the companions actually lacked individual depth, and the game felt more like a generic action-adventure title than a true RPG, really stripping away from the common RPG frictions like disapproval mechanics or moral ambiguity. Now, you may be thinking, well, okay, Dragon Age wasn't that good, but this writer wasn't solely responsible for the decisions regarding it. He wasn't the guy calling all of the shots and how the game was going to go forward with these kind of decisions. Unfortunately, this could be a case of this guy just getting caught in a crossfire. People label him as a Dragon Age Veilguard writer and associate him with the woke writing. Now, I'm absolutely certain it wasn't his decision to incorporate these sort of factors into the game. It wasn't his decision to put pronouns and etc. into a fantasy world. My sort of unfortunate angle on this, however, is the fact that maybe Bethesda are taking a look at Dragon Age Veilguard as sort of inspiration for what they want to do, and maybe they brought this writer in for that aspect. This is a potential seismic shift that could shatter the very foundation of what makes this franchise special, however, if it is being done for the wrong reasons. The Elder Scrolls has always been our sacred escape from those sprawling medieval fantasy realms where we can lose ourselves in those epic adventures, far removed from the chaos of controversies in the real world. Skyrim, for example, was the cultural icon that really redefined open world RPGs when it launched all the way back in 2011, and over a decade later, all of us seem to still be playing it. It is still thriving thanks to a dedicated modding community that truly loves this game. Why do they love it? Well, it's because it gave us that freedom to be anyone we wanted. It didn't remind us about the political issues of the real world. It didn't remind you of those overdue bills you had, those tests that you failed last week. You could go into Skyrim and be anyone you wanted and really escape from reality. Now, with John Dombrowse stepping in as a senior quest designer, a shadow of doubt has fallen over the Elder Scrolls 6's future. The big question everyone is thinking about is whether we could see potential virtue signaling and political agendas creeping into the heart of Tamriel. Like, imagine strolling into a Nord village expecting to hear tales of honor and valor about some crazy battle that previously happened, only to be met with dialogue that feels like a lecture on today's societal issues. Topics like gender identity or cultural representation shoehorned into a setting where they just honestly don't belong. Of course, many of these issues that are put into games are very important in the modern world, however, they don't belong in a fantasy RPG whatsoever. If Dombrowse brings this approach to the Elder Scrolls, it could really disrupt the immersive fantasy world that we crave. I don't know about you, but if I'm talking to a Daedric prince, I don't want to be reminded I have just misgendered him or something. Like, I seriously don't want this in the Elder Scrolls. Bethesda as a company really does stand at a critical crossroads, and the weight of its legacy is truly heavier than ever. The studio gave us Oblivion, Morrowind, and Skyrim. Elder Scrolls 6 coming up is set to be bigger and better than all three of their previous titles. Well, hopefully that is, and I can tell you 100% for certain if these kind of values are incorporated into the dialogue and NPCs, quests, etc., it will not live up to the expectations that it should. Is this guy here to fix the quest design flaws that maybe plague Starfield? Is he here to make an actual impact and really help improve the Elder Scrolls 6's writing? In all honesty, I don't think he's going to be able to have that freedom he wants under Mr. Emil Pagliarulo, but that's a completely different topic for another day. The poor guy doesn't know what he's getting himself into. Despite all this, it does seem that Bethesda are bringing in staff to try and improve the quality of writing with the Elder Scrolls 6, whether this whole agenda is going to be in or not. They want to improve the writing, it seems. This guy has a lot of experience and a very impressive resume if we're not going to be talking about Dragon Age Veilguard, but we just gotta hope that Bethesda aren't prioritizing trends over tradition by bringing all of these new staff members in. We could end up with a game that feels like a corporate checklist rather than a labor of love like we've seen previously from them. What we need is a game that honors the series' heritage. We need quests that let us shape our own destiny, whether looking to broker a peace in the Civil War or delivering into a Daedric plot. We need a world that feels alive. Factions like the Dark Brotherhood and the Thieves Guild. We need lore that respects the 30-year history of Tamriel. We need a world that we can go and get immersed into without being reminded of day-to-day agendas and politics and all that nonsense. The whole point of gaming is to escape from reality, and we need to make sure the Elder Scrolls 6 truly allows us to escape from reality without being reminded of day-to-day issues. There is a glimmer of hope, of course, and we really do need to cling to it. We need to pray that they listen to the community and they look at the backlash that happened with Dragon Age Veilguard and what the fans don't want in a fantasy RPG. We need to hope that they lean on the strengths that made their previous games absolutely fantastic. Is this hire a test of their resolve? Under Microsoft's watch, will they prioritize the fan passion over this corporate strategy that so many studios seem to be adopting? Will they give us a Tamriel that feels like home or one that feels like the world that we're living in today? We can't afford the Elder Scrolls 6 to become another big issue in gaming. We'll have to pray that Bethesda remembers why we fell in love with this series in the first place: the freedom, the wonder, and the escape. I suppose the future of the franchise and our trust in Bethesda hangs by a thread, and it's up to them to prove that they are still the guardians of Tamriel that we believe in. This could be seen as a massive reach. All they've done is hire a new writer. However, I think that these reaches can sometimes be necessary because, let's just be totally honest, we have no idea what this company is thinking of actually doing. For every good thing that Bethesda do, they seem to do three things even worse. I'm really hoping hoping that they've got this guy in for his ability to actually really write great gaming quests, rather than the team he was incorporated previously in, with an intention for them to take their games into that direction. But anyway, please let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are you sort of thinking that maybe there's not much to this, they've just hired a writer and they're looking to upgrade their staff with some good quests being added to the potential upcoming games? Or does this leave you a lot of room to be concerned? Are you thinking that they're looking to go elsewhere in the direction of how they make their games? Fingers crossed that we get a little bit of news about this and what their intentions are, but then again, it could just be a massive reach and they're looking to extend their staff. Ultimately though, if there is anything else to come out regarding this entire situation, or anything Bethesda related in general, make sure to subscribe and stick around for more upcoming videos just like this. Well, I'll be covering everything. As always, thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.